In a shocking turn of events that has left Port Charles reeling, acclaimed WASB operative Anna Devane recently escaped her captor's grasp, only to discover that her salvation was orchestrated as the ultimate test stand. The hidden puppeteer pulling all the strings was not who she expected. The daring escape from darkness. Anna Devane, the seasoned WASB spy with decades of field experience, found herself imprisoned in a dark dungeon by her captor, Pascal. Her decades of espionage training and instinctive survival skills would soon become her greatest asset. In a brilliant display of tactical intelligence and quick thinking, Anna utilized her refined spycraft to outmaneuver her guards and orchestrate a daring breakout from the suffocating confines of her prison. Drawing upon every lesson learned throughout her illustrious career in international espionage, she calculated her movements with precision, waiting for the exact moment when her captors would become complacent before executing her escape plan. The former WASB section chief moved through the darkness with the grace and stealth that only comes from years of covert operations. She had spent enough time in dangerous situations to know how to read the patterns of her guards, to identify the weakest points in security, and to move like a ghost through the shadows. Every nerve in her body was honed to perfection as she made her way through corridors she had memorized, committing each detail to memory during her captivity. It was not just physical strength that would save her, it was the cunning mind of a master spy operating at the peak of her powers. With her escape secured, Anna ran through the frozen wilderness, her breath crystallizing in the bitterly cold air as snow crunched beneath her feet. The white landscape stretched endlessly before her, each step taking her further from her prison and closer to what she believed would be safety. Her heart pounded with the exhilaration of a successful operation, and for the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to hope that her ordeal was finally coming to an end. The rescue that was no rescue at all. Then, like an angel descending from the heavens, Anna spotted a helicopter cutting through the snow-laden sky. Her spirits soared as she recognized the silhouette of Jack Brennan himself, along with an entire WASB tactical team, descending toward her position. She had never been so relieved to see familiar faces in her entire career. In that moment, with tears freezing on her cheeks, Anna believed that her rescue was imminent, that the cavalry had finally arrived to whisk her away from this frozen nightmare. Anna. Brennan's voice crackled through the headset as she approached the helicopter. You made it. We knew you had the skills to escape on your own. Come on, let's get you to safety. She climbed into the aircraft, her legs barely able to support her weight after days of captivity and her desperate flight through the forest. The familiar interior of the WASB helicopter enveloped her like a warm embrace. Brennan stood before her, his expression unreadable, his hands reaching out as if to steady her. For a brief moment, everything seemed perfect. The nightmare was truly over. But then, in a movement so swift and calculated that Anna barely had time to process it, Brennan's demeanor shifted. His hands, which she thought would offer support, instead moved with practiced precision. Before she could react, cold steel restraints closed around her wrists, binding her hands together. The shock of the betrayal hit her like a physical blow, more painful than any punch she had endured during her captivity. What are you doing? Anna demanded, her voice trembling with a mixture of confusion, anger, and disbelief. She had survived torture, overcome her captors, and fought her way through impossible odds. Now, the man she believed had come to rescue her was securing her in restraints as if she were a common criminal. The cruel truth revealed. Brennan's cold eyes met hers, devoid of any warmth or sympathy. When he finally spoke, his words cut through her like a blade forged in ice. That escape was your final examination, Anna, a test to confirm whether you've still got what it takes to be a top operative. I needed to know if you were still capable of functioning at the highest level of our organization. Anna's mind reeled. An examination? A test. Everything she had suffered, the pain, the fear, the desperate struggle for survival had been orchestrated, controlled, manipulated. She had been nothing more than a test subject in Brennan's sadistic experiment. But there was more, far worse, than she could have imagined. Brennan leaned closer, his voice dropping to a tone that was almost conversational, as if he were discussing the weather rather than delivering earth-shattering news. You passed, Anna. You showed all the reflexes and tactical brilliance that made you legendary. However, your passing grade comes with a price. You're now going to be handed over to Jen Sidwell in exchange for the political power and influence I've been working to accumulate. The implications crashed over Anna like a tidal wave. She hadn't been rescued at all. She had been evaluated, found satisfactory, and was now being sold to the highest bidder, a criminal warlord who had already proven himself to be ruthless and unpredictable. From one prison, she was being transferred to another, far worse fate. The master manipulator unmasked. As the full weight of her situation became clear, Anna realized something that sent chills down her spine, far colder than the winter winds outside. Jack Brennan had not been a savior at all. He had been the architect of her entire ordeal. The man she had known for years, the WSB colleague who had always seemed trustworthy and competent, had orchestrated everything from her capture to her escape to this moment of ultimate betrayal. You, Anna whispered, her voice barely audible. You're the real puppet master. Pascal. He was just your instrument. Brennan's expression remained clinical, almost detached. Pascal was useful, yes, but his main purpose was to keep you compliant and contained until you could no longer deny what I needed you to understand. You see, Anna, the WSB as you know it no longer exists. It's been transformed into something greater, a network that serves those with the vision and resources to shape world events. Sidwell understands this. He's invested in our new world order. Anna slumped against the helicopter wall, the realization of her vulnerability washing over her. She had spent her entire career believing she was fighting for truth and justice, for her country and for honor. Now she understood that the very institution she had dedicated her life to had been corrupted from within. Brennan, positioned at its highest levels, had transformed it into a tool for personal gain and power. The helicopter's engines hummed around her as it climbed higher into the frozen sky. Below, the snowy forest receded into the distance, a white expanse that mirrored the emptiness she felt in her chest. She had outwitted one captor only to find herself more thoroughly imprisoned than before. And the man responsible for this elaborate deception was the one person she had trusted with her life. As Brennan turned away to communicate with his team, Anna's mind began working frantically, assessing her new situation, calculating possibilities, planning her next move. She was no longer the victim in this scenario. She was a player in a larger game, and she would not go quietly into the darkness of Sidwell's captivity. Brennan had tested her reflexes and found them intact. Now, she would have to use every ounce of her considerable intelligence to survive what was coming next and to ultimately bring down the man who had orchestrated this cruel betrayal. The true battle, Anna realized, was only just beginning. Next, we will learn about the explosive developments surrounding the mysterious shooting of Drew Cain and the shocking web of secrets that multiple Port Charles residents are desperately trying to keep hidden. The question that has been burning in everyone's mind since that fateful night is finally approaching an answer, but the truth may be far more complicated than anyone could have anticipated, and the revelations could shake several families to their very core. Michael's suspicious presence at the crime scene. The timeline of events on the night Drew was shot has become increasingly suspicious, particularly when it comes to Michael Corinthos and his movements throughout that evening. Security footage and witness statements have confirmed that Michael was indeed at Drew's residence shortly before the shooting took place, and he was seen leaving the premises in what appeared to be a state of distress. Tracy Quartermain, ever the observant matriarch, happened to be in the vicinity and witnessed Michael departing from Drew's property, though she couldn't determine the exact timing in relation to when the gunshots rang out through the quiet neighborhood. This raises an absolutely critical question that law enforcement and private investigators alike are now grappling with. Did Michael actually witness the shooter either entering or leaving Drew's home? The positioning of the windows, the layout of the property, and the timing all suggest that Michael may have had a clear line of sight to whoever pulled the trigger. If this theory holds water, then Michael's subsequent silence and his careful answers to police questioning take on an entirely different meaning. He may not just be protecting himself from suspicion, he could be shielding someone he cares deeply about from facing murder charges. The Willow connection and Michael's conflicted loyalties. The most obvious suspect that Michael might be protecting is none other than his estranged wife, Willow Tate Cain, whose tumultuous relationship with Drew has become the talk of Port Charles. Despite the bitter custody battle currently underway and Michael's firm stance on preventing Willow from having unsupervised visits with their children, there exists a complexity to their relationship that goes far deeper than simple animosity. Michael's feelings toward Willow remain complicated while he may be furious about her betrayal and her affair with Drew. He doesn't necessarily want to see the mother of his children spending the rest of her life behind bars. Michael has made it abundantly clear through his legal maneuvers that his primary objection to Willow's custody rights stems directly from Drew's presence in her life. The children, particularly young Wiley and little Amelia Corinthos, have expressed their own discomfort with Drew, making it known in no uncertain terms that they don't want him as a stepfather figure in their daily lives. If Michael witnessed Willow at the scene of the shooting, he might be calculating that with Drew out of the picture, whether he survives or not, Willow could finally break free from Drew's influence and potentially rebuild her relationship with their children. This twisted logic might justify his silence in Michael's mind as he weighs the welfare of Wiley and Amelia against the demands of justice. Furthermore, Michael understands the psychological impact that having their mother arrested for attempted murder would have on his children. They're already dealing with the trauma of their parents' separation, and adding the stigma and permanent loss of having their mother imprisoned would create wounds that might never heal. These two powerful motivations, the possibility of Willow being free from Drew's toxic influence and the protection of his children's emotional well-being, could be driving Michael to withhold crucial testimony from the authorities. Alternative suspects Michael might be protecting. However, the investigation has revealed details that complicate the theory of Willow as the sole shooter, opening up the possibility that Michael witnessed someone entirely different fleeing the scene. The discovery of the weapon used in the shooting, identified as the historic Edward Quartermain gun from the family's collection hidden in Willow's room at Elizabeth Baldwin's house, creates a puzzle within a puzzle. Why would the gun end up there if Willow wasn't the one who used it? And more intriguingly, who had both the access to plant it there and the motivation to frame Willow for the crime? Michael himself was present at Elizabeth's house on the day the gun was discovered, as was his mother, Carly, who arrived shortly before the weapon was found during what was supposed to be a routine visit. This coincidental timing has not escaped the notice of more astute observers. Both Michael and Carly had the opportunity to plant evidence, though the question of why either would want to frame Willow becomes murky when we consider their respective relationships with her and their shared grandchildren. What makes this situation even more perplexing is Willow's documented access to the Quartermain mansion and her intimate knowledge of the estate's layout, including the secret passages and entry points that only family members typically know about. She could have retrieved the gun without anyone noticing, but she also could have been set up by someone who knew about her familiarity with the property. The shooter's curious behavior at the crime scene also demands explanation. Why would someone skilled enough to hit Drew with such precision leave without confirming the kill? Professional shooters don't make that mistake, which suggests either an amateur overcome with emotion or someone who was interrupted mid-assassination. The Kai and Trina investigation twist. According to exclusive previews from General Hospital's writing team, an unexpected duo will crack this case wide open. Kai Taylor and Trina Robinson will piece together the evidence and identify the true shooter. However, in a twist that nobody saw coming, they will also choose to keep the shooter's identity a closely guarded secret, refusing to share their findings with law enforcement or anyone else. This revelation adds another layer of protection around the mysterious gunman, suggesting that even these two young amateur detectives, who presumably have no personal stake in protecting Drew's assailant, find compelling reasons to keep quiet. The fact that Kai and Trina would want to protect the shooter tells us something crucial about the perpetrator's identity. This person must be someone sympathetic, someone whose motives they can understand and perhaps even justify. Trina's connection to various Port Charles families through her mother and her relationship with Spencer Casadini gives her insight into multiple circles, while Kai brings a fresh perspective as a relative newcomer to the complex web of relationships in town. The mysterious phone and Scout's ringtone. One of the most tantalizing clues discovered at the crime scene involves a cell phone and the distinctive ringtone associated with Scout Cain, Drew's daughter. Witnesses report hearing Scout's custom ringtone playing on a phone near the time of the shooting, which initially pointed investigators toward Willow, as it was assumed to be her phone ringing with an incoming call. However, deeper analysis of the evidence suggests an alternative explanation. The phone could have belonged to Drew himself, and he may have been trying to answer a call from or about Scout when he was shot, which would explain why the call went unanswered. This detail opens up entirely new avenues of investigation. If Drew was distracted by his phone at the moment of the shooting, it could explain how the shooter got the drop on him despite his military training and heightened awareness. It also raises questions about who might have been calling him at that precise moment. Was it truly about Scout? Or was it a setup designed to ensure Drew would be looking at his phone rather than watching his surroundings? The Stella Henry theory. Among the more unexpected theories circulating through Port Charles gossip circles is the possibility that Stella Henry could somehow be involved in this tangled web. While Stella doesn't have an obvious motive to shoot Drew, her connections to multiple families involved in this drama and her fierce protective instincts when it comes to the people she cares about can't be dismissed out of hand. If Stella believed that Drew posed a threat to someone she loves, perhaps related to family secrets or personal betrayals, she might have taken drastic action. Michael would certainly have reason to protect Stella if she were the shooter, given her relationship with his family through various connections and her general standing in the community as a respected elder. More importantly, both Kai and Trina would be inclined to shield Stella from prosecution, given her age, her reputation, and the sympathy she would naturally evoke. However, this theory still doesn't adequately explain how Edward Quartermain's gun ended up planted in Willow's room at Elizabeth's house unless Stella was trying to create a patsy to take the fall, which seems out of character for someone generally known for her integrity and straightforward nature. The frame job question. Perhaps the most crucial question that remains unanswered is not who shot Drew, but rather who went to the considerable trouble of framing Willow by planting the murder weapon in her temporary residence. This secondary crime reveals a calculating mind at work, someone who not only wanted Drew eliminated, but also wanted to ensure Willow would take the fall for it. The perpetrator would need intimate knowledge of both the Quartermain Mansion's security systems and Elizabeth's house layout, along with the awareness of Willow's current living situation. This elaborate frame job suggests premeditation and careful planning rather than a crime of passion. Someone mapped out every detail, from accessing the Quartermain gun collection to finding the perfect opportunity to plant evidence in Willow's space without being detected. The list of people with this combination of access, knowledge, and motive is surprisingly small, which may be why Michael, Kai, and Trina are all choosing silence. They may have realized that revealing the truth would expose a conspiracy that goes far deeper than anyone imagined. As Port Charles holds its breath, waiting for Drew's fate to be determined and for the truth about his shooting to finally emerge, one thing is certain: when the full story comes out, the revelations will send shockwaves through multiple families and force everyone involved to confront the lengths they'll go to protect the people they love, even when those people have committed unforgivable acts. Next, we will learn about the explosive developments coming to Port Charles over the next 2 weeks that promise to shake the foundation of several key relationships and expose devastating secrets that have been carefully guarded for months. Dante's devastating testimony. The courtroom drama reaches a fever pitch as Dante Falconeri prepares to take the witness stand during Willow Cain's highly publicized trial. The detective finds himself in an impossible position torn between his duty to tell the truth and his loyalty to the people he cares about most. As Dante delivers his testimony, something goes terribly wrong. The words that come out of his mouth will have consequences he never anticipated, leaving him visibly shaken and filled with regret. The aftermath of his testimony proves to be emotionally overwhelming for the seasoned detective, who has faced countless dangerous situations in his career but finds himself unprepared for the guilt and turmoil that follows this particular moment. Lulu Spencer, witnessing her former husband's distress, steps in to provide the comfort and support he desperately needs. Their connection, which has remained strong despite their romantic relationship ending, proves once again that some bonds transcend traditional definitions. Lulu's presence serves as a reminder that she understands Dante better than almost anyone, and she knows exactly what he needs during this difficult time. Tracy's shocking discovery. Meanwhile, the formidable Tracy Courtroom finds herself piecing together information that leads her to a conclusion that will leave her absolutely stunned. Known for her sharp intellect and ability to see through deception, Tracy realizes something that changes her entire perspective on recent events. This revelation will force the Courtroom matriarch to reevaluate her recent decisions and consider the implications of what she's discovered. The weight of this knowledge sits heavily on Tracy's shoulders as she contemplates her next move, knowing that what she does with this information could have far-reaching consequences for multiple people in Port Charles. The truth about Drew's shooter, in what promises to be one of the most shocking revelations of the season. Kai Taylor and Trina Robinson finally discover the identity of the person responsible for shooting Drew Cain. The moment they learn this crucial information, their world shifts dramatically. The identity of the shooter will send shockwaves through Port Charles as it connects to storylines and characters in unexpected ways. However, what Kai and Trina choose to do with this explosive information will surprise viewers even more than the revelation itself. Their decision-making process reflects their character development and moral compass, but it also demonstrates how complex situations rarely have simple solutions. The young couple must weigh the consequences of their actions, considering not only the legal implications, but also the personal relationships that could be destroyed by bringing this truth to light. Christina's desperate plea. Christina Corinthos Davis finds herself in a precarious position when she learns about her mother, Alexis Davis's new legal strategy. Understanding that Alexis plans to completely dismantle Michael Corinthos's credibility in court, Christina realizes that Jacinda Bracken's presence in Port Charles could prove catastrophic for her brother. Driven by family loyalty and fear of what's to come, Christina approaches Jacinda with an urgent request: leave town immediately, before it's too late. The conversation between these two women carries an undercurrent of desperation and tension, as Christina tries to convey the seriousness of the situation without revealing too much about the legal maneuvering happening behind the scenes. Jacinda, however, has her own reasons for staying in Port Charles, reasons that complicate Christina's efforts to protect Michael from the impending legal disaster. A forbidden kiss. The attraction between Michael and Jacinda has been building steadily, creating an undeniable tension that neither can ignore any longer. Despite the complicated circumstances surrounding their relationship and the fact that Jacinda's testimony could potentially destroy Michael's reputation, the two share their first kiss. The moment is charged with passion and danger, representing not just physical attraction, but also the emotional connection they've developed. This kiss marks a turning point in their relationship, transforming it from something ambiguous into something undeniably real. However, the timing couldn't be worse, as their romantic involvement adds another layer of complexity to an already tangled legal situation. The kiss also raises questions about judgment and priorities, as Michael seems willing to risk everything for this connection with Jacinda. Jacinda's courtroom bombshell. When Jacinda Bracken takes the witness stand, everyone expects her to corroborate Michael's alibi, just as she had previously claimed. Instead, the courtroom erupts in chaos when Jacinda reveals a truth that changes everything. She was actually with Ezra Boyle on the night Drew was shot, not Michael, as she had originally stated. This revelation exposes the elaborate lie that was constructed to protect Michael, and the implications are staggering. Viewers who have been following the storyline know that Jacinda's false alibi was part of a carefully orchestrated plan. But now that deception is unraveling in the most public and damaging way possible, the moment of truth arrives with devastating clarity as everyone present realizes that they've been deceived. Alexis's strategic strike. Alexis Davis, renowned for her brilliant legal mind and strategic thinking, uses Jacinda's testimony to deliver a crushing blow to the opposition. With surgical precision, Alexis exposes the perjury committed by both Michael Corinthos and Tracy Quartermain, effectively dismantling their credibility and severely damaging Willow's defense strategy. The revelation that two key witnesses lied under oath provides Alexis with powerful ammunition in court, and she wields it with the expertise of someone who has spent decades navigating the legal system. Tracy, who is unaccustomed to being outmaneuvered, finds herself on the receiving end of this legal assault, and her fury knows no bounds. The animosity between Tracy and Alexis, which has existed in various forms over the years, reaches a boiling point. Tracy makes it abundantly clear that she holds Alexis personally responsible for this humiliation, and she promises that there will be consequences for this public exposure. Crucial testimonies. The trial continues with testimonies from Willow Tate herself and Elizabeth Baldwin, both of whom bring their own perspectives to the proceedings. Willow's time on the stand is emotionally charged, as she must relive traumatic events and defend her actions while under intense scrutiny. Her testimony reveals the complexity of her situation and provides insight into her state of mind during the critical moments in question. Elizabeth, as a close friend and someone who witnessed key events, offers her own account, which could either strengthen Willow's defense or inadvertently damage it. The question of whether their testimonies ultimately help or hurt Willow's case remains uncertain, as both women navigate the challenging terrain of a high-stakes trial where every word matters. Charlotte's bold escape. In a daring move that showcases her resourcefulness and determination, Charlotte Casadini manages to evade the guards who have been assigned to watch her. The young woman's escape is driven by her desperate need to see her father, Valentin Casadini, who remains in a vulnerable position. Charlotte's love for her father overrides any concerns about the consequences of her actions, demonstrating the fierce loyalty that defines the Casadini family. Carly, understanding the importance of the father-daughter bond and perhaps seeing an opportunity to advance her own agenda, facilitates Charlotte's visit to Valentin. This act of compassion from Carly reveals a softer side of her character, even as she simultaneously pursues her own strategic objectives. A dangerous alliance. Following Charlotte's visit, Carly and Valentin engage in an intense brainstorming session that results in a carefully crafted plan to take down Jack Brennan. Both Carly and Valentin have their own reasons for wanting Brennan eliminated as a threat, and their combined resources and strategic thinking make them a formidable team. The plan they devise is risky and requires perfect execution, but both parties are committed to seeing it through. Their alliance, built on mutual interests rather than complete trust, represents the kind of complicated partnership that often emerges in Port Charles when powerful players find themselves working toward a common goal. Brennan's pressure campaign. Jack Brennan, ever the manipulator, turns his attention to Britt Westburn, applying relentless pressure as he seeks information about Caesar Faison's final project. Brennan's interest in this mysterious project suggests that whatever Faison was working on before his death holds significant value or power. Britt, caught between her desire to protect certain secrets and the mounting pressure from Brennan, finds herself in an increasingly untenable position. The stress of the situation causes her to make a critical mistake. During a conversation with Jason Morgan, Britt inadvertently reveals a clue that points toward what she's been hiding. The slip-up is subtle, but Jason's keen observational skills mean that nothing escapes his notice. Romantic developments. Despite the chaos and danger surrounding them, Jason and Britt find themselves drawn to each other in ways that surprise them both. Jason, recognizing the genuine connection they share, takes the bold step of asking Britt out on an official date. This marks a significant moment in their relationship, transforming it from something undefined into an acknowledged romance. General Hospital fans who have been rooting for Jabrit will finally see the explosive chemistry between these two characters fully realized. Their date promises to be filled with tension, passion, and the kind of intense connection that both characters have been missing in their lives. The romance between Jason and Britt offers a glimmer of hope and happiness amidst the surrounding darkness and intrigue. An awkward encounter. In an unexpected moment, Jason and Carly cross paths with Drew, creating a situation charged with awkwardness and unresolved tension. The history between these three characters makes any interaction complicated, and this particular run-in forces them to confront feelings and situations they might prefer to avoid. The encounter serves as a reminder that in Port Charles, the past is never truly buried, and relationships continue to evolve in unpredictable ways. New romance blooms. Love continues to blossom in unexpected places as Molly Lansing Davis and Cody Bell find their friendship evolving into something deeper and more meaningful. The connection between them strengthens with each interaction, leading them to the point where they must address the nature of their relationship. The conversation about defining what they are to each other represents a vulnerable moment for both characters as they risk rejection by acknowledging their feelings. The almost kiss that occurs between Cody and Molly crackles with anticipation and nervous energy, capturing the excitement and uncertainty of new romance. Their hesitation before that almost kiss speaks volumes about how much this connection means to both of them. Professional concerns. Brooklyn, Courtroom, and Harrison Chase find themselves consumed with worry about Chase's suspension from the police force. The situation weighs heavily on both of them, as Chase's career has always been a fundamental part of his identity. Brooklyn, as his partner, feels the stress alongside him, and together they attempt to process the implications of this professional setback. Their conversations reveal the strength of their relationship as they navigate this challenge together, sharing their concerns and supporting each other through uncertainty. The suspension raises questions about Chase's future and forces both of them to consider what comes next if his career path changes permanently. The next 2 weeks in Port Charles promise to deliver the kind of dramatic twists, emotional revelations, and romantic developments that General Hospital fans crave, with storylines that will have lasting repercussions for everyone involved.